This is Barb Cooper from helpmysquashgame.com. And I was thinking today about dealing with tournaments. I don't know about you, but we're right in the middle of our tournament season. And when you're in that sort of competitive mode, mindset is really, really important to you. It's got to be positive, but at the same time, you've got to have with you open concepts, things that you can apply and practice every single time you play a match, and every time it will work. So that means that you can allow yourself to make adjustments and still fulfill your concept. And I've given you a couple of those before. I've given you things like make sure that every time you hit the ball, you're trying to play it from the middle of the court. If it's there to volley, volley it. Don't let the ball go by you. When you're trying to hit the ball to a length, it's got to go by your opponent. So I'm going to give you a tip today that I really hope you use. And when I watch people play squash, this is one of the tips that they really don't use. I want you to think when you're hitting a lob, and a lob is a slow high shot that's supposed to go to the back of the court. I want you to think of hitting it out over the rafters. Now what I mean by that is, if you took from one red line to the other, and you imagine there were rafters or beams connected across them, when you hit your lob, whether you're at the front of the court or the back, make sure the ball goes up, out, over the rafters, and then plops down on the floor at the back of the court before it hits the glass. If you can think of that concept, whether you're hitting a lob serve, whether you're hitting a lob in a game from the back of the court or the front, I'm guaranteeing it's going to do one thing. No, it's not going to go out of court. It's actually going to go past your opponent. And that's really what you want to do when you're hitting a length. So I hope that helps. Now, let's start talking about training. Training for squash has a lot of fundamentals. You've got to have a good aerobic base, which means you've got to be able to maintain running for a period of time. And if you're having a match of about 40 minutes, you better be able to run for 40 minutes. But you also need core strength. Core strength is one of the biggest keys in squash, because you're going to be using your core when you're hitting every single ball. So it needs to be really strong. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to do something called planking. I'll show you what I mean, and I'll show you some variations. Now, remember one thing. I am not recommending that you do this without seeing a trainer, without seeing a doctor, if you have any sort of back issues, stomach issues, anything like that. But if you choose to do planking, this is one thing that can definitely help your game. This is planking. What you're trying to do is make sure that your core is solid, you've got a solid base, and you're making sure that every body muscle is active. When you've got the idea of planking like this, you might want to plank this way. Again, same thing, you might start here. If you feel weaker, this is actually a stronger way to start, and then you can come back up again. If you feel really strong, you can turn it onto one side and say hello to the cat, and then you can do it the other way. What you're trying to do is build up your strength and your core so that you can maintain this for maybe 30 seconds and up. But remember, if you've got back problems, if you've got core problems, don't do this until you've seen a doctor, okay? Or a physiotherapist or a personal trainer. Going back to your mindset, and you know I'm always talking to you about reading stuff. I don't care who you are, if you're not reading stuff or making sure that you're putting in positive stuff, positive information into your head on a daily basis, but you're listening to the news is, as far as I'm concerned, the most depressing thing you can ever hear. It's all about people being shot and murdered and whatever. So here's a book that I think you would really get a kick out of. It's called It's Not Luck. And it's written by a guy called Eliyahu M. Goldratt. He actually was the author of The Goal. This is about goal setting, and it's about preparation. Really, really interesting read, and it might help you build a long-term plan of what you're going to do on the squash court in terms of your training. Because if you start preparing, you know what they say, spectacular results only come from unspectacular preparation. So this preparation everybody kind of pretends doesn't happen. But honestly, anybody who's ever achieved anything, I believe, has done an awful lot of preparation behind the scenes. So there's a great read for you. And now it's time for Ask Barb. And one of the questions that came through, which I thought was really relevant to today's show, was how do I prepare myself before a tournament? And this is another thing that I see a lot of people do, a lot of club members particularly. They're about to play the club championships. And so to them it's like cramming for an exam. The problem is you can't go into a tournament tired. Honestly, your best bet 2 days before an event is to make sure that you are really relaxed and fresh. That means I'm not suggesting you go and play a hard match 2 days before your match, your first tournament match. It's absolutely crazy. You're going to play maybe 5 matches, 1 Friday, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday if you're going to win the final. And to play an extra match 2 days before is just going to take more out of you. So here's my preparation tips. A couple of days before, I would make sure that you practice, but lots of skill stuff, lots of rapid fire stuff, but without any sort of running. Do lots of technical work. Feel good on the court, feel good about the way you're striking, practice your volleys, practice your drops, but again, no real running. And then the day before, make sure that you have a good stretch, a good relax, make sure that you've eaten enough, and then on the first match on your Friday night, once you've finished it, remember what you've got to do. You've got 15 minutes to take protein and complex carbohydrate. 85% complex carbohydrate, 15% protein. And then after that, all you're going to do is stretch before each match. The other thing I would do is enjoy the anticipation. Honestly, this is going to be fun. So you're going to compete, and that's why you're there. So enjoy the nervousness, feel good about it, and then just say to yourself, right, I'm ready for my competition. If you don't feel nervous, trust me, you're not up for the match. So there's my thoughts for the day. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoy your squash. Go out and compete really well in the tournaments. And this is Barb Cooper from helpyoursquashgame.com, signing off. See you next show.